Hi, welcome to the home of real leadership and to 13, where leading experts share 3 top tips on a subject of their choice that we believe will be useful for you in life and in leadership. It's very rare that we get to meet a living legend, and today we have exactly that. Peter Thomson started out in 1972, and he's now regarded as the UK, if not Europe's, top expert in business and personal growth. And personally, I think he's the best in the world in terms of information product creation. Peter, good morning.
Delighted to be with you, David, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I tell you what, I better be good today, hadn't I?
You deserve it. Peter's a bit of a mentor to me, and he's helped me a great deal in a very short period of time. I don't know where we'd be without him, quite frankly. Right, enough about that. Peter's very kindly offered to share his 3 top success tips, which apply to anyone in life, particularly if you're working in an organization or a business, but they apply to anyone in life. So Peter, I'm going to hand over to you for 10 minutes. And off you go.
Delighted. Thank you, David. And good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or whatever time of day it happens to be that you're watching this happening. And I'm delighted to have this opportunity to share with you what are some tried and some tested and some proven ideas in particular about how we can be more successful in business, how we can be more successful socially, and how we can be more successful in life itself. Before we get going, there's one thing I need to say to you is that I simply don't have all the answers. Yes, I've been in business now for nigh on 50 years. And over those years, I've been fortunate to have a lot of great successes and some fantastic failures. And I probably learned more from the failures than I actually did from the successes, because isn't it strange how we tend to analyze our failures far more often than we analyze our successes to make sure that we are taking a different road. As Deepak Chopra said, in every failure are the seeds of further success. And isn't that so true? So these 3 ideas particularly are going to help you when you are communicating with yourself and you're communicating with others, whether those others are in your business or whether or not they're out in the wider world as your clients or customers or patients. And the first one is this: learn how to sell, then stop selling and allow people to buy. I think you and I are quite comfortable in being sold to by others when that person who is doing the selling has our best interests at heart, and we can feel that from them. If they have their own best interests at heart and they're rubbing their hands smoothly and slowly together, rather like Scrooge, then obviously, or even perhaps Uriah Heep, then certainly we can feel that at that subconscious level, can't we? And we know that they're not really thinking about us. However, if we have this mindset when it comes to selling, and don't we sell all day long? Somebody once said to me, all communication is an attempt to persuade someone else to do or avoid doing something either now or in the future. And I think that's probably true. So if all of our communication is persuasive communication, in other words, let's say selling, we have to be really careful when it comes to selling that we're doing it with our normal use of honesty and integrity and outward focus. After all, when it comes to making the money, money is simply the silent applause for a job well done and value delivered to other people. And in fact, our income directly reflects the outcome that somebody else gets. So if we learn how to sell, because we need to know how to persuasive and how to have persuasive conversations with an introduction, with a middle and a closing part of it. I have a little formula I use for that, which is open, gather, present, adjust, conclude, and follow. So it's a platform on which I can understand and show other people how to communicate persuasively, passionately, and powerfully. We learn how to sell and we stop selling. And that just takes the pressure out of everything. You see, if we go around trying to convince people, that's not really a very pleasant thing to do at times. Why don't we do this instead? Let's just be convincing. Why not? Be convincing rather than trying to convince other people. One of the reasons I think that so many people are uncomfortable selling is this, and it's an expression I wrote years ago, having thought for a long time about why people were not succeeding to the level of success that their level of skill says that they should. People will never consistently do who they aren't. Or in other words, who somebody is their beliefs, their values, their identity, actually, if we're looking at the proper levels of it. And if we ask someone to do something that is out of alignment with that, then it'll simply miss. Whereas if we ask someone to do something that is in alignment with who they are, then they'll do it all day long. This is the reason that most training doesn't work, is that people are not being aligned personally with the skills, the ideas, and the methods that they're being taught. Here's another idea for you. You can take away and use this in business. It's so simple. It was taught to me by a bank manager over 30 years ago. I renamed it, made it my own, but I credit him. His name was David Storr, and he worked for what was then NatWest Bank. Here's how to keep on track with any of the goals that we set in life, whether they're business or personal goals. Just 5 letters, WWHAM, WHAM, WWHAM. If we're clear why we want to achieve a particular goal, and we need to know that why in 2 ways. We need to know what it is that we don't want, and we need to know what it is that we do want. And in that way, we get the power of away motivation and the power of towards motivation. Most people, unfortunately, are living their lives mostly using away motivation only because they don't set goals. And they find themselves in what is so-called, and why it's called this, I don't know, the comfort zone, where they're living their lives always not wanting to be something, not wanting to be too poor, but not wanting to be too wealthy. After all, people don't like wealthy people. Rubbish. Not wanting to be too big or too small or too fit or whatever it might be. And they're living in that middle point, always away motivated. And here's why. Away motivation is the catalyst for action, but that's all it is. Let's imagine I'm stood or sat here by a big block of ice, and it's close to me, and I'm motivated to move away because it's cold. But as I move away, its effect upon me diminishes. And therefore, if I get to this point away from the ice, but there's nothing to take me continually forward, I'm stuck here. I've no motivation to move. However, if I set goals and those goals are down there, let's say that's a nice warm fire because this was the cold ice, and there's a friend of mine with a drink I'd like to drink and a nice joke to tell me, and he's good company. And now I'm motivated towards him, because away motivation is the catalyst for action, but towards motivation is the continuation of action. So this is the reason that we need goals. So we need to have that why first. Then we need to know what. What is it that we're trying to achieve? If we don't have what, if we don't have that precise target, then we can't achieve it, because you can't hit a goal that you can't define. So we know why, we know what. And next thing we've got to do is know how. So we've got to create for ourselves a simple plan, haven't we? A simple, simple plan. What's the old expression? We know it, it's trite, it's hackneyed, but it's still true. Have a plan, work the plan. Very, very simple. So all the basic stuff that's been the truth for all time. So we know why, we know what, we know how. Next stage is the A, take action. Simple as that. Action is the key to all success. Yes, what we think is important. However, our actions are so critical to that. I remember once standing on stage with somebody who told me this little trick as a presenter. And I held a candle. In the days you could hold a lit candle up in an auditorium, and I held up this lit candle to the audience. And I said, we're going to use the power of our minds to put this candle out. Right. And I said to everybody, I want you to think this word now and do it together. Out, out, out. And all the audience, I said silently, there can't be any blowing, out, out. I said, oh, that doesn't work. I was ashamed. Okay, well, let's say it out loud, see if it makes a difference. And I had the whole audience there going, out, out, about 1,000 people in the room going out. I said, gosh, that doesn't work either. And then I went, psst. Sometimes you've got to take action with those thoughts, haven't you? So we know what, we know why, we know how, we know the action. And then the last thing, this is really important. I used to miss this myself, how crazy. We must measure. Because we've got to measure the result of our actions, and that measurement will tell us whether or not we're on track to the goal. And if we are on track to the goal, great, we can keep taking the actions. If we're not, we can think, is it the actions, is it the goal, or is it the plan? So we've only got 3 things to consider. Are these actions the right actions? Is this goal something I still want? And have I got the plan right? Why, what, how, action, measure. Brilliant as that. And once we've got our goal set, we need to know what are the actions we need to take in order to achieve it. And I know how to do this, and I'll share it with you. When I sold my business many years ago, over 30 years ago, halfway through our earn-out year, we lost a major client, and it looked as though we wouldn't hit our projected numbers, and we wouldn't get the second tranche of the money, which was a number of millions of pounds, of which I owned a load of it, right? And so I had to think of something good. So I had this idea, and I sat down and I worked it out. And then I called the director team together, and I said, here's the situation. Here we are in September. And next March, we're going to be measuring the numbers, and we're going to get or not get the amount of money that we're due. Let's imagine for a moment, we're not going to get it. We're going to miss the target. Now, I want you to feel that. I want you to be angry. I want you to curse and swear and bang the table, right? We've got to get in state. And when we're in that state, this is what I want you to do. I want you to write down this: if only I'd. Now, it's not if only we, it's not if only the government or the weather or turbulent times, it's if only I, personal responsibility. If only I'd done this, not achieved this, difference, if only I'd done this, we would have achieved the goals. You see, here's a little sideline, and this is shocking, but it's true. You cannot take responsibility for your results. There's too many variables, but you can take responsibility for your actions because there aren't. So if you have that clarity, and as somebody cleverer than me once said, resistance is created through a lack of clarity. This is how it works. Off they went, they did their reports, they brought it back to me, I created a plan, and we stuck to that plan, and I read it every morning when we got into work from the September to the March, and we soared through the numbers and got the second tranche of the earn out. This is how you use it. Go to a point in life where you want to have achieved a goal. Imagine you haven't, and get in state and ask yourself an implied question. If only I'd ... what are the dots, question mark, and write down whatever your mind says. Then change state, maybe go out and get some fresh air, come back. Imagine you're at the point when you have achieved the goal, and you have, and get into that new state, you celebrate, yes, and then you say, I achieved that goal because I ... What are those dots? Now, you're not trying to find the reverse of what you said, you're trying to ask your mind, is there anything else? And that's the way that you can find out the actions to take to achieve any goal, anywhere, at any time in your life. I urge you, take it away, teach it your family, teach it your people. So let's learn how to sell and stop selling. Let's stop trying to convince other people and be convincing. Let's realize that we will only consistently do who we are. Let's use the power of wham, why we want it, what we want, how we're going to achieve it, the action we're going to take, and the measurement. And let's use the power of what I call the yesterday's road method. In other words, go to the future and look back and decide what it is are the actions that are going to take you there. If you'll take these ideas away, I guarantee you the implementation of these ideas will give you greater success. I've proved it for myself, and I've proved it for my thousands and thousands of clients over the last 30 plus years. I wish you every success in all your adventures in life. From me, Peter Thomson, goodbye for now on that part.
Stunning as ever, stunning as ever.
Thank you.
Forget 3 tips. I think you probably shared about 30, three overall, 30 how-tos. Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, David.
And Peter's a good friend of mine, a good friend of the Home of Real Leadership. You'll find him when the leaders get. You'll find him everywhere. And do go on here. Do join his seminars and his webinars and his workshops, because they are worth their weight in gold. They really are. Thank you again, Peter, and bye-bye to everyone.
My pleasure, David. Thank you.